Hey guys, welcome back to Be a Creative. It is tag number 6 in my 8 Crazy Tags of Hanukkah series. We are rounding the corner, almost to the end, of creating 8 different tags using a stencil and 1 stamp set. This tag is more about the technique, really, I think, than just the stamp set. I do an acrylic resist using just generic acrylic paint and some Distress inks by Tim Holtz. I can't take credit for the technique. I wish I could because it's awesome. But it's actually something that I learned from watching like hundreds of hours of Tim Holtz videos on YouTube from Creativation, and he demonstrates this. I mean, not hundreds of hours. That I'd be like a loser if I did that. It's not hundreds of hours, but it is quite a few. You know what? That doesn't matter. I have watched some videos and I picked this up. So to accomplish this, you just need a few simple things. We're going to use the Lawn Fawn stamp set that we've been using all week long. Some Distress ink dauber things, you know, the blendy tools. I have several different shades of Distress ink and Distress Oxides that I'm using. I don't use all of them. I only use 3. Let's just move those to the side. Some archival ink in red and some Stazon ink. Some scrap paper. And I'm using some Faber Castell Pitt pens. Also our stencil. This is the first time we've actually used the stencil since we started this series. Now, the acrylic paint that I'm using is generic, and in the Tim Holtz videos he uses his Distress paint, but after experimenting with this for a couple of times and using several different types of acrylic paint, I really don't think it matters what type of acrylic paint you wind up using. I am applying the acrylic paint on a plain manila tag that I forgot to show you. I'm sorry, you are going to need that. Through the stencil. And I'm going to be honest, I struggle with this. I don't know what it is. Like, I love stencils. I have probably 30 or 40 of them. They're probably my favorite crafting tool. But for the life of me, I can't stencil effectively. I'm a poor stenciler. It's not, I didn't know that was going to be like a needed life skill I was going to need to develop. Sometimes I try dabbing the acrylic paint, like in an up and down motion, like tap, 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 tap. That doesn't really work. Sometimes I try just, rubbing it through the stencil in like gentle circular motions. I can't really figure out what gives me the best results. So after about the 3rd tag of just trying to do this, I just stopped. I just started putting some paint down through the stencil, and it was kind of hit or miss. The one thing I can tell you that I did notice makes a difference, the stencil itself. It seems like if there's not a lot of detail, there's not like a lot of like fiddly bits you have to get in, then this technique works better. You're going to want to let those dry. Trust me, this will not work at all unless the tags are completely dry, and those actually set overnight just to be on the safe side. I've picked out my 3 colors of blue because those are the colors of Hanukkah, and I'm going to do a very simple ombre on this. I actually think this tag is prettier than the one I wound up using, and unfortunately this tag is not the one that I used because I got a phone call which cut off my video, and I didn't know that until I was done. So I had to go back and redo it. And the ombre on this tag turned out really well, and I'm kind of wishing that I had picked this to complete the finished tag. Lay your ink down just like you would regularly. Like if you're just inking up a tag, use the blending tool, start off the tag so you don't get that like heavy buildup, go in circular motions, and just ink your tag in whatever way, shape, or fashion you want to ink it. Don't panic though, because you're going to be like, what the crap, Shannon? How is this resisting? Everything is just a shade of blue. Just watch. Going back over the bottom with that chip sapphire, And this is where the magic happens. I'm taking a slightly damp paper towel and just lightly going over the top of that acrylic paint. And you can see, voila, it's starting to brighten back up. And that's the beauty of this technique. The acrylic paint will resist the ink. Now we're going to add our focal points. We haven't used this part of the Lawn Fawn stamp set yet. It's the little frying pan that the lackeys are cooked in. And I thought it would be fun to actually try to color it and stamp it out because I hadn't used it yet. I've actually had the stamp set for a couple years and I've never used this. I am not a colorer. Not at all. So if you don't like watching people color, I don't blame you, especially me, because I'm like tapping into my kindergarten days and trying to remember what my mom said. It's okay if you go outside the lines. You're just going to cut it out later when you fussy cut it. I mean, she didn't tell me that when I was, in kindergarten, but it's still true. I'm just taking the Pitt pens and I'm trying to do like some fancy shading. It'd be all fancy right here. And I'm using 3 different colors of gray Pitt pen from Faber Castell. I outlined the frying pan in the darkest gray, then I went in with the midtone, and I'm going to use this light gray to finish out the middle. And I was actually kind of proud of myself. From this distance, it looks kind of badass, but if you get super close, you can see that I need to work on my coloring skills. That's okay. Goals for 2020. So I did 3 of these, though I didn't make you watch, but just one, because, you don't really want to use me as an example of how to do a perfect color. But I did do 3 because, again, I like to do things in 3s. And because the little message sentiment says, I love you, a lackeys, I was like, well, that would be like really punny if I just put a whole bunch of them down. I didn't want to do the sentiment just on a white tag, so I'm going to go back over it with some of that Distress ink since I already had it out. And I thought that the Stormy Sky was going to be a really good color. And of course, I have to have my little pop of red. So I have, something other going on other than just all that red. And when I stamped it down, I was like, yes, this is going to be awesome. It's going to look so amazing. And then I'm like, I don't know about that. So I decided to pull out that tumbled glass and basically do the exact same thing, just in a lighter shade of blue. I'm not being really careful about this. I'm just getting the blue down on the paper because I'm going to cut out around the sentiment. This time, when I stamp it down, the red looks way better against the blue. Yeah, see? I'm comparing. Yep, definitely picking that bottom one. And the heart I want really, I originally intended to have it pop up off the page, but when I actually stamped the heart, I realized it was super small and there was no way I was going to get one of those foam adhesives behind it. So I decided to just stamp it out in 3s in case I messed up. I didn't want to have to like pull everything out. I didn't wind up using the other 2, but I did get those little foam stickies on the little lackeys, the little fried potato pancakes, and it's so cute. The effect it gives of them kind of popping out of the pan is really 3-dimensional. The tag looks so good in person. I wish the camera was picking up on that little 3-dimensional effect. I am going to glue down that tiny little red heart instead of popping it up. I'm just going to flick it. Flick it. I'm using my that's my Nuvo pen. I very seldom use it for small stuff, and I wish I used it more because it was really handy. It worked like a charm, really, to get that tiny little heart glued down. I'm going to take some blue Stazon. I was going to do black, but then I was like, nope, I'm going to do blue. Some blue Stazon and go around the edge. I could have used the Distress Oxide to ink the edges, but sometimes that'll come off on your hands if it's not set. You can actually go over it with his glaze that he has that will keep the oxide or the distressed ink from moving. But I didn't want to do all that. So I just use the blue Stazon, and I think it gives us this nice little pop of color. Oh, that's me not being able to put that down center, so I had to peel it back up and move it just a little bit, and it still doesn't look like it's centered. That's okay. It's close enough. We're going to add our tiny little silver ribbon. I'm not going to talk, I promised myself I wasn't going to talk about the bow, and I didn't. We have this great tag. I love you a lot, Key. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.